All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 88th episode of the Get Down. My name is Kareem.
Gary W. here. We're back.
It's slow, Gar. We're like struggling a little to come up with topics here, just like the DJ world is a little slow here at the end of July, early August. Our topics are getting equally a little bare.
I'm coming out firing with the CTA. Guys, if you want to hear about any topics, please throw it in the comments below. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're, listening on wherever you consume your podcasts, throw it in the comments below. We'll check it out. We'll come up and conversate about it next week. I think that's kind of a good thing to do.
This is something that I've actually been thinking about. If you guys have questions that you want us to answer, or you have a specific situation where you were out DJing and something happened and you weren't really sure how to handle it, shoot us a message, hit us up on Instagram. You could email us, however you want to get a hold of us. Like we just said, we're looking for topics and things to talk about here at the end of the summer. So, we'd love to hear what you guys want to hear us talk about.
Another thing, I just thought of this while we're sitting here talking about it. We could always do a live show on YouTube, get some eyeballs on our YouTube page, and then we can live chat with you guys. As you guys comment, we can talk about what your comments are and conversate in that way, which would be a cool new way to bring the podcast to you guys. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so, I'm down for that. That'd be cool.
Maybe look out for that in the future, guys. I think, especially during these slower times, it's a good time to do that. That'll be fun and connect with everybody, especially in the summertime. And, that'll be good times.
I'm down. Let's do it.
Anyway, I'm back down here, just having a good time, relaxing. You're up there and things are just slow. It's just really, a couple of accounts have kind of pulled back some of those extra gigs, or some afternoon stuff has kind of gone away, which will go away for only about 5 to 6 weeks, which is really not a big deal, but you understand it from a business owner's perspective where every penny counts when you're not in a vacation market, which kind of sounds silly to say because I have a lot of friends from here that are up in New York for vacation this week as we speak. But it's not like those people that are on vacation up there are going out to like the local bars or like, maybe they'll hit like one of the bigger nightclubs or something like that. But
yeah,
a lot of it is like, Central Park, museum kind of a thing. And then it's like back home early and call it a night. So like nightlife isn't as thriving as it could be in the Manhattan area and also in North Jersey. I mean, it's a lot of Hamptons, a lot of shore. So it's the usual. It's the usual.
I think people are on vacation, man. It's that time of the year. So I don't know. While it's kind of shitty that like the venues aren't as busy as they would normally be, like I've still had really good gigs, and it also offers up an opportunity to focus on some other things, which you and I have been doing as far as just like, like we've been saying, prepping for the fall, but also just getting our business in order and working on some things that we haven't really had a chance to work on because we've been so busy with just the day-to-day of running the business. So that part of it, I like for sure, because there's stuff that we've had kind of lingering for a little while and we've been knocking it out here in the last couple of weeks.
This is a great time of year for business owners, especially if you're in the North Jersey market and entertainment. I mean, you could retool and be ready. We just had the episode about it last week. But yeah, it's just a good time for that. And just think ahead and just plan ahead and just be ready to rock when things get crazy again. But, a lot of something that we talked about prior to this that you've been thinking about. And I think that, as we talk about this a lot, like as we get older and we start to take a step out of the booth, you start to think about what are the other things, especially during these slow seasons. You think about this. It's like, what other, like, why are you getting up in the morning? What motivates you? What are you thinking about at 5 a.m. when you get up? Because unfortunately, you and I have been doing that a little too often lately.
Yeah. Super early morning today for both of us. But yeah, I think this is something that I think about all the time, right? It's like, I'm not doing the 30 gigs in 30 days type thing anymore. I just can't do it, nor do I want to do it. Right. And the DJ side of things it doesn't motivate me or as excite me as much as it used to. Now, the big gigs and the good gigs, like those are the things that I think about, right? Like the casino gigs, or, you know, the direct support artist gigs, or the travel gigs, like that stuff, the big corporate gigs. I love that stuff still, and it makes me happy. I'm excited to go do them. But like the local, everyday, regular stuff, it's just like, it feels more like a job to me. Now, does that mean that I don't love DJing anymore? Absolutely not. It's just, I've done that for so long. It's just like boring to me at this point. It's like, I know the formula for the local gigs, and it's like, I want to challenge myself and I want to do other things. And I am, but of course I still have to do some of these local filler gigs to pay the bills, you know? So what's motivating me right now is, how can we make Get Down, or how can we create new streams of revenue with Get Down, so that I don't need to do the local gigs that don't excite me anymore. I've always been a proponent of, I only want to do the gigs that I want to do. And I generally do that, but there still are some gigs that I don't need to be doing. And I think about how can Get Down make up the difference, you know?
Absolutely. You and I look at this a little differently because I get time off. I have forced time off when I come back here to Florida, and I'm not up there because I'm not going hard in trying to get any gig. I'm going to go out to Tampa and play in August, but like, that's really about it. So I'll play like an extra weekend down here and then come back and play up there. So I get all this time off. So I'm always excited to come back and play. So I'm definitely like in a different mind status when it comes to the excitement of getting back in the booth. But when I have 3 weeks off, it's just natural to be ready to go again, because I can fill my crates with new music and be ready to go in that way.
Yeah.
There's a few things though that I think that you deal with as a business owner and a booker that maybe other DJs don't deal with, and that can add to the wear of your let's call it exhaustion, for lack of a better term, exhaustion in the local market. Like, you have to deal with all of the issues that go into that particular venue. You have to deal with the owners directly, and it's not just management that you're dealing with. And I think that adds to just being like, oh, I'm just kind of over this, you know?
If I was just prepping music and going to play gigs, that would be a completely different story.
Right.
If I was sitting at the pool 3 days a week during the summer and, you know, coming home at night and working on music and then going to my gigs on the weekends, completely different story. But how many hours in a week do we put towards Get Down? A whole lot. I put a whole week's worth of work before I go DJ one song.
Right. So think about it this way. And any of our younger guys that are listening to this, Kareem does take a brunt of the phone calls and texts, I guess, because he's in Jersey. Any complaint that a owner has about our DJs, we get those complaints. Like, usually, if you're the individual DJ, the complaint goes to the manager then complains to you at some point, right? And if there's far enough a disconnect where you're not playing in that venue every weekend, that manager might not even let you know about the complaint. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it seems so big in the moment, and then 2 days goes by and it's like, well, I'm not complaining that, you know, he sat in Latin for 25 minutes and he should have been out of it in 15, kind of a thing. We're kind of getting these complaints in real time via text message. And it's a completely different ball game in going back into that venue. So let's say that you're playing X venue and we're getting complaints at Y venue, and you're playing Y venue the next day. Well, you're less excited about it. You just dealt with a bunch of bullshit from the night before when you weren't even there.
Yeah.
Now, are we getting, you know, a percentage, a small percentage for that night? Yes, sure. That is true. And that comes with the territory. But I think that is part of where the mental wear comes in, and less excitement comes in when it comes to the more local stuff. If you played more local gigs that we didn't book, You know, maybe you'd be more excited to walk into those venues. Like you did, what was that, Pier 115 not too long ago? And that's just a go and plug and play and be out of there. You know, the bartenders and the staff was happy about it. And I think I spoke to maybe security. I spoke to somebody. I forgot, I didn't even tell you. And they were like, oh, Cream came in, did an amazing job. Maybe it was a bartender or something. He did an amazing job. He killed it. He rocked it. And that was it. And you were just like, yeah, that was fun. I was in and out and it was done. So I think that adds to it a little bit. And like I said, like the fact that I don't have it is because I get weeks off, and then I get excited to come back and play with kind of a whole new arsenal of music. Now, something else that you said that I think we could talk about real quick, and then we can go back. I know I'm kind of getting away from this a little bit, but there's also like knowing the formula and what to play in your market. Like have you come up with any new ways to like really kind of spice up your set to where you keep it to where it's not the conventional, all right, this is what works in the market, and like get away from what works and like just play some good music?
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's a little bit of a challenge in certain venues, because the venues where it's true open format and I play more hip hop, there's not a lot of hip hop that I really like that's new. So it's just me playing a lot of the older stuff. And it's like, how many times can you play the same old music before it gets kind of boring to me? At least when I'm playing house music, I can play 8 versions of one song depending on where I'm at or the style of music that I'm playing. And even though you're playing the same vocal, it's a little, maybe I have a new remix, or maybe there's a tech house version of a big room song that I like that I could sprinkle in, or I'm creating songs specifically for those sets that I enjoy playing more, you know, like, so I don't know, those open format sets, it's just like finding new ways to bring the same song in, you know, it's just, that kind of bores me also, to be honest.
Yeah. I could see that. I mean, I think that when I come up, I get to play Latin night on Thursday, and then that Sunday party has been invigorating in playing like real house music, and then like playing disco and playing funk, and then playing just things that aren't played normally everywhere else. And, you know, those sets, that's what I've been like yesterday and today. That's what I've been prepping for. Like I'm downloading music with Sunday in mind.
Yeah.
Even though I'm only coming up and playing that one Sunday, but like, what the fun part of playing those weird parties, quote unquote weird, is the fact that I'll always pull 5 to 10 of those tracks from those nights and then pull them over into my regular set and like work them in some way.
Yeah.
So like there's like a Kurt Maverick song from like 15 years ago or 10 years ago that I played a couple Sundays ago, and like it's just been in my set religiously. And I've had like bartenders be like, dude, I haven't heard that song in God knows how long.
Yeah.
But like it just goes with kind of the music that's out right now. It's really interesting to go back, especially in house music. This is why house music is so amazing. Like that Beyonce track came out, and now all that classic house from the early 90s, like it
just fits in. It fits there.
The Peter Rohofer, the CeCe Peniston, the like all that stuff from the early 90s is just so good. And it's big again where it's charting back on Beatport. I saw an old track charting from like it's from 98 or something like that when I was downloading yesterday. And that sound is coming back. We'll get into that later on in this episode, actually. So I don't want to dig too deep into that. But like those are good ways to kind of revitalize your sets in hearing the new pop stuff and then bringing the old stuff what it's inspired from and pulling that stuff into your set. I think that's a great way to like come up with new mini sets. Cause like now I have that Beyonce track, the original Show Me Love, I think, and like 3 other classic house tracks from the mid to early 90s. That's now a mini set that I've played in 4 or 5 sets of mine in the past couple of weeks, which I think everybody's doing, but you know, it's still something new to me and new to my crowd. So it's that I feel like that's a great way to spice up your local sets that you're kind of boring of playing, and just get people used to hearing some different stuff.
Yeah. being able to play different new things and styles of music or remixes or stuff you've dug on to Beatport, like that's what excites me, playing new music, going and downloading a bunch of new songs and then being able to test it. Like that stuff's fun to me. I like that, And then obviously when you're getting all those big reactions later in the night, I mean, that fuels my fire also. But like, I think guys, as you're listening to me talk about this and Gary talk about this, it's like, what are the things that motivate you, right? Maybe just having a full calendar is what motivates you. Maybe you're only booking, one night per week and you want to get up to 3 nights per week. And if that's what's motivating you, then like, that's where you need to spend your time and go all in. For me, like I've been back to making music again, which I love. It makes me so happy. And when I'm doing that and putting music out, it motivates me and it invigorates me. It gives me life in that part of my business and my world. So, when you wake up in the morning and you're thinking about certain things, or like you're thinking about, oh man, I just really want to start making my own music, like do it. Spend the time. If that's what you're thinking about, that's what's going to motivate you. And when you're spending the time on the things that you want to do, you're going to spend more time there, and you're probably going to spend better time there, and you're going to improve, and it's going to show in your work when you're working on things that you really care about. So I think it's important to really like take note of the things that really make you happy, or the gigs that really make you happy, and the places, and go all in on that stuff,
Definitely. When you're on the come up, and if you're one of those people that you're only gigging 1 or 2 times a week and you want to be at that 3 to 4 times a week, unfortunately, you're going to have to play places that don't make you happy at first, until you kind of grow into creating those relationships with places that do trust you, and word gets out and you're able to kind of move around. That's just the lumps that you take as a young DJ. But if you're a more experienced DJ, you're in 5 or 6 years, 7 years, and you're gigging pretty regularly. Yeah. I mean, it can get boring quickly. If you're not switching your sets up, or if you kind of have the same crowd all the time, it can get boring quickly. And then you do have to find these other avenues to stay creative and stay hungry and stay motivated.
Yeah, I think part of it too is like updating your crates and just playing out of different folders. Like there's a lot of ways to combat the things that I'm saying. And listen, like I'm complaining a little bit, but like, again, in the grand scheme of things, like we're getting paid a good amount of money to go and DJ, right? Yeah. And like, we could be doing a lot worse things in the world than going to a club or a bar and getting to play music that you generally like, and seeing a reaction to people, who are dancing to your music, or, reacting to what you say on the mic. Like, I love all that stuff. It's great. But when you start doing some of this high end stuff, it's hard to come back to the mid tier, we'll call it, or the regular gigs. It's just hard to do for me.
I'm laughing right now. If anybody's watching this, you can see I'm laughing because I worked 2 days ago at my part-time job, which I come back to and I do once in a while because I'm passionate about golf. I love golf. So when I come back here, I play a lot of golf, but to keep my free golf, I go work my part-time gig. And Sunday it was 105 degrees and I'm outside for 6 hours, sweating my ass off for minimum wage. But it affords me to keep free golf when I'm here, which is nice. So sure, that's not motivating. Well, it's motivating to me on the other side. It's motivating to me on the DJ side of things. It's motivating to me on the get down side of things. We want to be in a position, or I want to be in a position where I'm a member at that club instead of working there to keep free golf. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you think about it in that regard, that is something that keeps me motivated, because it's I have to do this in order to play at $150+ a round golf course. So I want to be the guy who's telling me to go get his golf clubs, So there are different ways to stay motivated with things. If you need to make a couple extra bucks and you got to go and get a part-time job because you're short all the time because the DJ is not paying your bills, and you got to go do that. And then trust me, trust me, when you get to that part-time job, you are going to be motivated to go do something else on the other end to make some money in your DJ career or production career or whatever it might be.
Yeah. I think like transitioning and things changing is also something it's okay, right? It's like, you don't have to, you can change what motivates you. It doesn't have to be the same thing. And at different points of your career, different things are going to motivate you. And I think I'm just dealing with the transition of being more front facing in the DJ booth on the microphone, and more so like on the back end, more like making music and running Get Down and helping our DJs get to that limelight, that main stage, big room, big show situation. So I think it's just dealing with that also. And like, I think it's just normal. And I think it's, like I said, part of the flow of anyone's career that things change like this.
As seasons transition to this happens, we had this conversation between winter and spring, or like winter, spring, and summer, however you want to say it. It was like March, I think it was, when we had this conversation last. And then summer season hit, and we kind of took off pretty okay, like between May and like last week, and then things have kind of slowed up. So yeah, you always have this like little self-reflection and like, okay, what's going on right now, because things are slowing up, and you get to take a deep breath and be like, okay, well, this is what I need to focus on, or want to focus on.
The fall will always invigorate us. It always does. It will. It changes the 11:30 parties that get busy turn into the 10:30 parties, and that changes things greatly as well. As a side note, I'm going to throw this out here. Like, I'm talking about stuff like, oh, sometimes I'm not as motivated. Like, I'll still eat your lunch. I'm still going to go in there and crush gigs. So don't think I'm slipping out here.
You did hit me up yesterday. You did hit me up yesterday saying, I woke up, I'm ready for the fall. Let's go. I'm like, I took a deep breath and said, holy shit, it's Monday. I just worked yesterday at 105-degree heat. I'm just trying to relax this morning, and you're hyped about the fall. But like, that's just, that is, why that is one of the things that motivates you, that crazy part of the year and that busy part of the year.
Yeah. I had a really, really great meeting yesterday. And I mean, that helped too, when talking on bigger scales, new ventures, new ideas. So that was awesome. And I'm sure you guys will start seeing some different things and some new things popping up from Get Down for sure in the next few months here. So
now I talked a little bit about, being a younger DJ in the come up, and kind of having to sometimes take your lumps in trying to grow. And something came up over the weekend that kind of interested me a little bit. And one of our venues, they seem to like, I don't want to say older DJs, more experienced DJs, right? And I know we've talked about this in the past, but I want to revisit it, because this does happen. I've written this down numerous times as a podcast topic, but we haven't really brought it up full force. Is, how do you gain the trust of a venue when you're coming in and like, you look young? They don't know who you are. They could tell like you're a young buck, like it's hard to sometimes gain respect when the people at the venue have been in the game for a long time. They know everybody in their market or in their city, and you walk in and it's like, well, who the hell is this new guy?
Yeah.
And it's, number one, it's overwhelming, because we've all been there. You've been there. I've been there. You walk in, you're 21, 22 years old. In my case, I was 17 at my first gig. And like, I wasn't even legal for another 4 years, 3.5 years. And it's like, well, how do I come off as if I am experienced and I know what I'm doing? And this is before I even plug my computer in and play a song. I think, well, that's where it starts, obviously. Right.
Well, I think it starts before that.
Go ahead. Well, educate us.
I think it starts a number of ways. Number one, that you've been promoting the party and tagging the venue and anyone you know at the party throughout the week. That's first and foremost. Number two, you get there extra early the first time you're there. You make sure that you're set up and able to play with more than enough time to start your set on time. Then you seek out the manager. If you haven't met them yet, you introduce yourself and you got to ask a couple of questions, right? I think when you can show the manager that you're thinking about not just like going there and drinking and DJing, like we have this negative stereotype where managers sometimes still think that you're just like, oh, it's this young DJ. He's just going to come in and get fucked up and play music and get out of here. But if you can go there and ask questions like, hey, I heard this is kind of the vibe of the night. Does that sound right? Is there anything you want me to avoid? Is there anything that like your staff loves and really wants to hear? I think if you ask those questions, they're going to think more highly of you, and they're going to think that you're thinking about not just like showing up and thinking you're this like headliner DJ that I'm going to, people are coming here to see me. Like you're thinking more along the lines of, I'm a partner in this night with you. Let's make it the best night we could possibly make it.
Yeah. That's spot on. You know what? I always go back and forth with, should I beeline to the booth to set up and then go talk to people? I guess that is the right way to go about it. Because sometimes I'll walk in and be like, well, I don't want to be rude and blow off the bartenders and blow off the possible manager. Beeline to the booth, set up, and then have him come up to me and be like, well, this guy was just going to walk in, set his stuff up, and he wasn't going to come introduce himself and have the conversation.
It depends. If you know who the manager is, sure. But a lot of times, like if I'm walking into a new place, I don't even know what the manager looks like. So I just say to myself, hey, I'm going to go set up, make sure I'm good to go. And then once that's done, I'll go to the bartender. I'll introduce myself. I'll say, hey, who's the manager? Are they here? Can I talk to them? Maybe they'll go grab the manager for me. So that's the reason why I would do it that way. Also, I think it's more important that you're playing music at the time you're supposed to be playing music.
Oh, hell
so
yeah.
Walking in and making sure you can connect and have sound, I think is the single most important thing when you walk into the room. So that's
Absolutely.
why I would do it that way first.
Absolutely. And then secondly, to another thing that you said is that you have to show up and make sure that you prove that you're just not there to party. All of my new gigs that I can remember within the last 2 or 3 years, I had a beer at, probably a beer. That's it. There's no shot taking, nothing like that. I'm not having more than one drink usually, maybe two, maybe one when I walk in, and then one like 1 a.m. at the end of the night or whatever it might be, 1:30.
Yeah.
The end of the night. And that last one at the end of the night would be to sit down at the bar and then talk to the staff afterward.
Right. Like see how you did, ask for feedback.
Right. So like one at the beginning, just to kind of like introduce myself to the bartender. They'll ask you if you want something. You get a beer. You don't get a shot. You don't get a shot in a beer. Stay away from like a full pour of whiskey or whatever it might be, because you want to come in and act professional. And then when you start to have a relationship with the venues, then obviously it just goes back and forth. Where like bartenders will bring you drinks or whatever it might be.
Right. The manager will ask you when you walk in, like, hey, you want to, or they'll just bring you a drink. Like it just works that way.
But that initial gig, it's like one drink at the beginning. And then, like I said, when you're done, go sit down and talk, because everybody sits down and counts money or counts their register. So go sit at the bar. You can have that beer or whatever, and have that conversation with them. How'd I do? What was the reaction like? Did you guys make money? So on and so forth.
They might not be honest with you, especially if they don't know you.
Right.
But
show that you care.
Right. Show that you care. Ask the question. I think asking like, hey, did you guys make money? Again, like at the beginning, you're kind of saying some things to get the manager saying like, this kid knows what he's talking about. At the end of the night, if you ask the bartenders if they made money or how was your night, like that'll show the bartenders that you're thinking about them as well. And that'll help build that relationship with the bartenders that, again, you're thinking about the whole night and everyone involved and not just yourself. That matters.
You could have sucked, but those bartenders are going to walk away and be like, well, that Kareem was a nice guy. He stopped by, he asked how I did, how my night was, if I made money. I didn't love his music, but he was like a super nice guy. I'm not going to go and trash him to the
Right.
other employees and the other managers. And
Here's another little trick, especially the first time you're there. Everyone knows, like, as a DJ, generally we're all drinking for free. The first time you're there, get your drink and leave a $20 bill in the bar.
Yeah.
And walk back to the DJ booth.
Yeah. Make sure they know that you dropped it, though.
Like, that's right. Like, make sure they know you dropped it for sure. That's another small thing that can help, like, ingrain you with the staff from Jump Street. And like Gary said, like, the manager is going to ask the DJs, or they're going to have some group chat that they're talking about the DJs. And if you were just okay, all this other stuff will make the staff say he was good or we liked him.
Yep.
If you were bad, sorry, you were bad and you're probably not going to be back there. But
right,
if you did all that stuff and you were great, I guarantee you'll be back there.
There are group chats at every single one of these places, guys. In case you didn't know, there 100% is a group chat between bartenders, management. DJs are never in it. And what are they talking about most of the time? The music.
Yeah. I think one other thing why a manager would really prefer experienced DJs is because of equipment. And generally, older DJs are more experienced, have dealt with more equipment issues, and can kind of like run through all the potential issues that if you can't connect and be able to fix that. Whereas younger DJs, like, they're not as likely to be able to do that. And again, the manager just wants the music playing at the time that it's supposed to be playing. That's their biggest pain point. Number one, first and foremost. So as a younger DJ, another thing you can do if you've never played at a venue and you know what the equipment is, and it might not be something that you're most comfortable with, again, get there super early or go in another night during the week, pop in and just plug in on a Tuesday where nothing's happening and there's zero pressure and there's no time constraints, and you just make it work. Yeah. And then when you show up for your gig, you're good to go.
That's making that extra effort goes such a long way.
Yeah.
So showing up the day or two before and just making sure the manager knows that you had shown up. You know, you can contact a place in so many different ways. You don't have to have the manager's number off the jump. You know what I mean? Like,
you could just walk in probably and just try it on a day that they're open too, you know, like, you don't even have to like set this up. You just pop in and whoever's working say, hey, I'm DJing on Saturday. I just wanted to do a quick sound check because I'm whatever reason, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, no, I think that's all good advice. And I think those are all solid ways to kind of solidify yourself as an experienced DJ, even if you are young in the game.
Right. The other thing too, guys, is if you are less experienced and you don't have, maybe you just know how to use your controller. Like, it's really important that you learn how to use and connect to all this other stuff. As a booker, it's extremely important. And every venue is going to be different, and not every venue is going to have what you are used to playing on. And most venues, the venues that we book, I don't want our DJs bringing controllers. There's equipment there for a reason. Use it.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about this with UFOso on the podcast 2 episodes ago. And it's just it's just another valuable asset to have in your back pocket as an up and coming DJ, that you just know how to adapt and be ready to go on no matter what is offered to you in the booth. Yeah. You know, when you and I were coming up, it was, I feel like it was never, ever new stuff there was never new equipment. Unless you were playing the bigger rooms, right? Like the bars and the small lounges, they all had old stuff. There was just old equipment that was dusty, just laying around. And, you know, we see it in some of our smaller venues too, where like there's just older stuff there. They don't have the capital to just turn around and buy $6,000 of equipment. It's just not what it is, because at the end of the day, a lot of those venues, they're bars and they're sports bars and restaurants. They're not nightlife, right? Nightlife is a supplement to their business. So it might be percentage wise a big piece of their income for the week, but it's still one of the last things thought about. So they're not investing stupid money into their equipment. So yeah, you do have to just be ready to adapt and play with whatever you can. And as you do walk into those places and they do have older equipment, be ready for any kind of challenge, playing on one side, playing internally, because you just don't know what you're gonna run into
Right.
throughout the night. So
the other thing too is just have a backup in the trunk of your car. You know, at last ditch effort.
yeah,
You have something that you know if you're in a pinch, you can go grab and make work, whether that's a mixer or a controller or whatever it might be.
I mean, they have controllers of all sizes that you can just throw in your backpack if you're not even driving, that you can just like put something in your backpack just to have, just in case something goes down.
And like always have some sticks with at least a mix. So even if your computer can't connect, you could plug a stick in and play a mix to at least make it sound like you're DJing. They don't even have to know that you're still not connected. At least if the songs are mixing and it's your music, like it'll buy you another 30 minutes or an hour, you know, if you need it.
Yeah. That's
so just all the preparation, you know, all this preparation makes the difference. And it sets you guys apart as DJs as far as how this is another way of how you can grow, being prepared for gigs, being flexible, being able to adjust to what's in the room. It's super important. So
busy season's coming up, and you may get called into a gig that you're not familiar with, that you haven't played, and you have to be ready for kind of anything when you walk into a new place.
Yeah. All right. So I think we could transition out of this. Something that you and I talked about offline and you mentioned earlier is just kind of like the state of music and like what's popular and what's been working in rooms. And I think we've, for the last, you know, year plus, or even from pandemic time, there's been a formula of like what's kind of worked, right? This like tech house, hip hop, or 90s R&B or 2000s hip hop vocal that's chopped up and thrown over a tech house beat has kind of been the formula, right? Like Acraze started it and everyone's kind of followed it. And I don't know, what are your thoughts about where the music is?
Tech house is over. It's done.
Tech house is over, huh?
All right. It's not completely over, but it's, you know what? I'm over it. I'm completely over it. Like the minute I hear an R&B or a hip hop track sampled, cut up, and then a drop, I breeze past the song. I'm not downloading it. I don't care if it's the next big track. I'm not downloading it. I'm over the sound and I'm on to the next one because it's lazy right now. That's the lazy way to try to make a hit. And I think that's what people are doing. They're not making music that they want to make. They're making music to be the next Acraze and you know, travel and do the biggest gigs. Unfortunately for the guys that are doing that, well, it's not going to happen because that sound, it has been revolutionized and there's one artist that's running with it. Sure, there's been big records out after that carry that same formula, a lot of them. And a lot of good tracks, but I don't think that if you're making that music that you're going to be the next touring DJ. That's just not, I think you need to be a little more creative than that. So in my downloads in the last 2 weeks or week or so, I feel like it's been kind of refreshing. It's a lot of like real house music is what I'm hearing. The good, well-produced tracks that I've downloaded have been house, just like straight house. Not tech house, not deep house, not melodic, like just straight house. Like think Louis Vega. I'm trying to think who else, like Kenny Dope, like those, like the pioneers of house music. They're still putting out records and they're still putting out very good records. And there's a lot of new artists on the come up doing some great things in that world as well, that I don't think a lot of people are I'm not familiar with yet, but I think that we're going to see a little more of that sound become more mainstream. And mainstream meaning like top 10 Beatport. I think you're going to see it chart a little more on Beatport, not meaning that it's going to hit the radio or anything like that. I don't believe that, but I think that it's a good way that if you're into house music, I feel like real house right now, especially in the summertime, will translate really nicely into your sets. You don't have to go all out, play like a big set of it, but like you could sprinkle in a track or two every 15 minutes or so, you know, and just to kind of like change the people's ear up, because that's what happened with me. I feel like the sound's not changing enough. And I'm just bored. I'm like, oh, I know what's going to happen here. And then I know this is going to be like this much of a break, and there's going to be this kind of drop, and this is what it's going to sound like. And there's going to be a quarter-second dropout with nothing there. And we're all supposed to be surprised that there's some crazy drop. Like it's just uninteresting to me. So I think like these really well-produced, like where it's hard to explain because I don't produce music on that level. But like the complexity of the production of a real house track is a little different. You know what I heard a lot of, which I didn't think that I was going to be into, and I found myself drawn to, is piano house. Like a lot of that old, like kind of an old soul piano vibe has been happening. And like I was saying earlier in the episode, I think that has to do a little bit with the Beyonce track, to be quite honest with you, and where that was sampled out of, and like the popularity of that sound right now, I feel like is being kind of drawn over, and that's why house is gaining a little traction.
Yeah,
I might be early on this.
I'm going to disagree with you on the tech house is dead thing. I think the Acraze formula of like 90s R&B vocal into tech house is dead, but I think there's a ton of artists and a ton of tracks that are out right now that are huge. Dom Dalla has a new record that is incredible. Chris Lake and Chris Lorenzo are crushing it. The Annie Up track that's out right now is amazing. I'm trying to think. Fisher has a World Hold On remake that's tech house that's great.
You know,
I think
that's
let me just finish this point.
Go ahead.
I think a lot of the stuff, the reasoning why like you're hearing a lot more of this piano house and more housey vibes is it's summertime and people are making music for pool parties, for beach parties. And I love that stuff. Like that LF System track is amazing and it's super different and vibey and just a really good song. But I think like all these Latin house, the Latin tech house bangers are like killing right now. And they don't follow the same mold of like that craze style. They're still tech house. And I think they're hitting harder than a lot. I don't know. Like John Summit is killing. Anything he puts out is killing tech house.
But a lot of those, like those Latin house tracks, so those are house tracks. Those aren't tech house tracks.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, they kind of like take from both, you know, they have the big drum buildups and the snare buildups that most tech house tracks will have. So that's why I don't think it's dead. I think it's just changing. And I think what's popular is changing a little bit.
I don't think it's dead. I think that, yeah, I just think that formula is boring. You know, my hot take is that tech house is over, but
yeah, I mean, listen, the US is always way behind on music, you know, like years behind, I feel like, from what Europe is doing. And they're kind of setting the trends, and then it's getting to the US when those artists are then coming over here and touring and a track gets big, you know? So I don't know, like, I'd be interested to hear, like, I'd be interested to go check out all the Tomorrowland or Tomorrow World. I never remember what the difference is, but whatever festival just happened, I'd love to go look at those set lists and see what the DJs are playing, because I think that is going to tell you what is going to now be popular here in the US in the coming months / years.
The only reason that I don't go and listen to festival sets all that often is because, like, if you and I were playing a festival, it would be completely different prep than it, like if it was any other stage or any other gig. It's just bigger sounds. You know what I mean? There's festival music, and then there's everything else. It's part of the reason I kind of stay away from that stuff, but it is good because it is good to gauge, especially like the earlier DJs in the day for like the Tomorrowlands and things like that. Is like, that's where you get like kind of a real feel of what a DJ sounds like. I think the headliners, they all go super festival heavy. I know Ferrari always says like, oh, that's a festival track. This is going to be a festival track.
Right.
Like, you know, they're considered that for a reason. They're made for that stage, you know?
Right. Well, DJs know that they're going to hit all these big
right.
stages. So they make music specifically for those sets, you know?
Yeah. See, I thought the World Hold On remix, and this is going to be very unpopular because it was going off in the chat like it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. I thought it was all right. Like it wasn't, it's not the greatest. It's not the most creative thing I've ever heard.
I mean, but that's because you know the original song. Like,
yeah, it sounded like the original.
Yeah, it's not much different from
put a little more like low end in that song and made it like give that a really nice build and a bigger drop. Like it just felt lazy. I don't know. Like when you play it next to the original, it's like, all right, like it's beefed up a little bit, but not enough. It needed a little more for me.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm just kind of going to look at the Tomorrowland, some of the 1001 track lists, set list for what's been happening this weekend. But I'm gonna check that out. I mean, I just saw John Summit. It's very John Summit, you know.
The word that like
everything you would expect him to play.
People said Tiesto's set was great. I heard a lot of good feedback on that. So I'd be interested to go check that out. It's so interesting to me. That guy's like almost 60 and he just still is on top of his game and you know, doing his homework. And that's a guy that's revolutionized his sound over and over and over and over again for
you want to talk about like transitioning your career.
Jeez, like sure, he can have a million ghost producers. He still needs to go up there and DJ. He still needs to know what he's playing, and it needs to sound clean and professional and well polished. And he's doing it year after year for 30 years. It's incredible.
Yeah, it really is.
And he's always a great indicator of like what the next sounds might be, or his mix show. Even though he's probably not putting it together, his mix show is well put together, and at least it was. I haven't checked in a little bit, but where it was like diverse in a couple different genres, and he'd touch on a couple things, and it has a really nice format and flow to it. So,
yeah, I mean, I doubt he has much to do with that. At least his team's mixing part, but
his team is excellent. Whoever's producing for him, whoever's putting his mix show together, it's excellent.
I'm sure he's also producing for himself, but you know, I think when you've been doing it for so long and he knows how important it is to kind of adjust the sound to what's popular and put out songs that other artists currently are going to play. You know, he surrounds himself with the people that can help him do that too. So
guy's a pro.
I mean, yeah, guy's been doing it forever at a very, very, very high level, at the top level. So,
yeah,
legend.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody about, and they were talking about festivals, and I was talking about Ultra 2002 when he was number one DJ in the world in 20 years ago, literally, and still doing it like huge. Did he headline this weekend?
I'm not sure, but
one of the main sets.
I would assume he doesn't really play anything that's not one of the main sets.
Right. So crazy to me. Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm going to go listen to for sure. I'm going to go check out some sets from Tomorrowland from artists that I like and just kind of go take a look at what's getting played out there, you know?
Yeah, for sure. That'll be interesting. My homework and what I'm going to dig into this week is more like the Oscar G set from Brooklyn Mirage. That looked wild. The video out of that looked crazy. The tracks that he played were crazy. I think it was really nice for him to come in and play in there to such a huge crowd. And I don't want to say off of the success of the Hugel tracks, because like Hugel's kind of popularizing the Latin house sound, and Oscar's been doing it forever. But for him, like the OG to come in and crush his set in there and have all the support from so many different DJs I was seeing on his Instagram, all the support that he was getting from everybody, that like it was kind of nice to see that he's just still killing it. I mean, he does his thing down in Miami, and he's brought up to New York a decent amount, but
I mean, he's got to be in his 50s too, right?
He's been around forever as well. It's another one since we're young. He's been putting out heaters. So
I've heard Oscar play a lot, man. His sets are always really good, and they're always a little different too, which is cool.
Yeah, one of the more memorable sets that I've seen him was with you down at Koyotako on that Monday of
There's like 50 people in a room.
I love that, like that. I love that setup because that's definitely where he's going in. He's testing records out. He's seeing what they sound like on a big system in front of people, seeing what kind of reaction that they get, and then he'll carry that into his bigger sets. And I love that kind of party for that kind of thing.
That's just one of those cool, intimate parties in a dope space. It's just a good party, you know? And like that's the type of thing where like people go there because of Oscar, but you could have anybody play that party that's a dope DJ, and like it would still be a good party, you know?
Because he has a bunch of DJs play.
Ralph Falcon plays a lot too. And I mean, he's got a ton of tracks out and been in the game forever also.
He only comes in and plays for like 45 minutes or whatever it might be, but that's exactly what it is. It's like, oh, I'm going to test these 10 tracks out tonight and see what goes on. Love that. I got to go down there. I got to really spend a night down there soon and check that out again.
All right, let's wrap here. My schedule this weekend is pretty light. I'm going to be up at Avalon Mohegan Sun Thursday and Friday. Going up with a couple of the boys, my friends from home. I'm excited to kind of show them what it's like to kind of travel and go headline a casino set and the hospitality that comes along with it. So pumped for that.
Jay's already on me. He's texted me twice this week telling me, these are the ones you should be up here for.
So yeah, I'll be up there, and then I have Ashford in Jersey City on Saturday. So it's a light DJ weekend for me, which is okay, man. I'm cool with it. So
nice. I'm hanging.
All right. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to this episode. Like we said, if you guys have questions or topics that you want to hear us talk about in the rest of the summer, hit us up on YouTube or Instagram or wherever you follow Get Down. Hit us up, let us know, and we'll definitely add that into the next couple podcasts. But thanks for listening. My name is Kareem.
Gary W.
Peace out, guys.
Peace.